Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look into 3 Shopify stores that have been speed optimized. And we're going to look deep into their metrics, see what they're doing, see how you compare, and then we can see what generally a fast Shopify store looks like. So we all know faster is better, we want things now, and we are increasingly impatient as humans. And the same applies to the usage of websites. So everything needs to be faster in today's world. So let me introduce you to the 3 contestants today. We have Luksushund, a Danish store selling pet-related products. So here's their front page. Then we have Stelton. This is another store from Denmark which sells these things, whatever they are. There's their site. And then we have Artwell, which is selling home decor and things like this. So right away we can see that their sites actually are quite different. So here you have a lot of small elements, a lot of sliders, these kinds of things popping up. And even the length of these sites or pages is quite different as well. So here you have something that is in the middle, it's the longest one, and this tends to be the shortest one. So right away we can see that not all pages are created equal, and this will also show up on our GTMetrix report. So here, first of all, if we think of load times, it's a collection of requesting assets, painting on them, and downloading them. The more assets you have, the longer the download time in general. However, there are a couple of ways around that, and since people browsing these stores are just end users of these services, they don't really have control over their loading experience. They're just loading it as it is coded. Here we can, with coding, make it faster, and that's the idea with the speed optimization in general. So let me bring you the GTMetrix reports out of these 3 contestants, and then let's dive into it. So first of all, performance can be very subjective. What we've done here is taken a phone on Chrome and used the server in Chicago, because Shopify is worldwide, it shouldn't make much of a difference, just any big city will do. And we found quite a difference, especially in the performance score. But here is the first thing. When the stores are speed optimized, you typically see it most on the structure. So there's a structurally good stores. Now, if you have a lot of assets, like Luksushund, for example, has on their front page, these little JavaScript things, then that tends to bloat it, where the performance will suffer first. But generally speaking, the structure will still be okay. And here is the first thing that we want to consider. The goal of the performance optimization is not just to get these scores to be perfect, because it's more important to serve the end business goal and to provide a good user experience for your visitors. Sometimes that might mean to have more assets that they are loading instead of loading it super fast. The idea there is that the critical content loads quickly. And I can show you what this looks like on a video. So if we take, for example, this page and look at it from a video perspective, here within 2.5 seconds you have the critical content loaded. Here's another example from the other store. They do it faster. You could say that this is now when the user can start experiencing the site or the page, half a second. And here's the third one. So we are right around just under 1 second where they can actually start reading this. And here you could say maybe it's usable around 1.2 seconds. So what happens after this matters less, because now the users can at least spend their time reading this, and they are reliably interacting pretty fast. Now also you can see that they retain this visual stability as the page loads, so nothing is moving around here. And that's the one common thing that we see with these optimized stores, is that the so-called cumulative layout shift is 0 on all of this. And that is one thing that is under our control as optimizers. So we can't necessarily control how much assets will be on the page, what kind of images, etc., and videos, etc. but we can control whether that loads well. That is one where you would always expect that to be 0, at least for the stores that have the financial assets to make it so. Brings me to this point where whatever you see in the reports, these should be regarded as guidelines and should be carried out only if they are within your means. So the end goal is not to just get a fast site, but you also have to consider the return on that investment. Of course, with speed optimization, the returns are usually there, but it's not feasible to do the same things that, say, a multi-billion-dollar corporate giant like Apple does, and do that for your mom-and-pop store. That just simply run on a side as a hobby. So there are these things that you would consider. And now, with that warning out of the way, let's look at the common things that are acceptable. So these optimization tools will give you a lot of ideas of what to do, but there are also a couple that for Shopify stores are okay. The first is the excessive DOM sites. This is not necessarily a big issue, and what you see here is that they will be flagging all the issues no matter how small they are. And because of that, you might exactly see these kinds of things on even all the optimized stores. So we have this here as a medium, here as a medium high, here as a medium low. So it exists on all of these, and just the degree that it exists is more of the optimization part. The other one is the avoiding the CSS at import. That seems to be one that is often repeating on this. Everything else can, and if the store is big enough, should be taken and worked upon. So you can excuse those 2 items, but not much else. Now, I am saying that especially since with the website builders like Shopify, a lot of that will be out of your control. You have these items where it is to some degree going to be the way it is. And since you are taking it not from an open platform, you don't have complete control with servers, etc. There you will be limited to some things. That said, there will be a lot of things that you can still improve. So you have control over, say, images and videos if you have your own store, and the added functionality as well, the apps, extensions, etc. Themes, the amount of content you put on the page, etc. So there you can control a lot of it, but you may not want the page to be the same as, say, Google's homepage, where there's only one thing and everything else is optimized for speed. And that brings us to our second thing here when it comes to commonalities between the stores. So here you have these 3 metrics. You have the fully loaded time. That tends to be low on these sites, talking about sub 3% in general. Then you have the total page size. That also tends to be very low on these ones. So that's another commonality that you see. And lastly, and perhaps the most important thing, is that you have very few total requests upfront. So I'm gonna expand on these things here when I actually whip out developer tools from Google Chrome, and let's take a look at these sites and see how they download. So first is Luxus Hunt, just going to give it a load, and this is something you can use when you press F12 or go and right click on the page. You should be able to see the inspect element to be able to see. Now here I am on the network tab. As you can see right now, we have 74 requests at this point. So the page has loaded, and then as I scroll down, more things loaded. So that's why the requests are low initially, and actually when we go all the way through the site, looks like we're close to 300, so around 270 and 11.1 megabytes. However, this is something that happens later on, and very few people would be immediately on this page where they would be going, say, on mobile from top to bottom. It actually takes quite a few scrolls to do that. We will be the same thing with the other sites as well. So here I already loaded this, but we have 262 requests, actually 47 megabytes transferred. That is because you have a video here. And on GTMetrix it actually looks like 19. So they have a very aggressive lazy loading here, and believe at first it is just an image that they are loading. So that's why you see this being so low. So it's just a video poster that initially loads. You can do the same. So here's the poster that they have, and this way we can make the videos load in a way that doesn't hurt the user experience. And lastly, you will have the same thing here just to illustrate the point, and we have 255 requests, 7.2 megabytes transferred. So same thing. Now, this is just the front page. So I'm gonna go over the product page as well, as would argue that that is the more important page. One thing I'll mention though before that is that there's often spillover effects here when you optimize one page and you, for example, make sure that the fonts are loaded properly, then you will have those items often spill over in a positive manner, where the other pages are also improved that way. And that same thing would apply to apps, header, footer, general scripts as well. So first of all, when it comes to the front page, I think that one of the main things here to take on is the lazy loading and considering that. So if you really need to have a large amount of content, like here for example 47 megabytes and 260 requests, then it is possible to still have that with lazy loading. You just need to implement that. And this essentially differs from loading the content that is not yet on screen until people scroll to a certain depth and then start loading it. So this means that you only load what is necessary and can speed up this first image delivery, the first content will paint, so to say. The on-load time, as they also say, in these speed optimization tools. A lot of fancy terms. But depending on the builder, at least on Shopify, this is actually quite easy. On Wix, for example, a lot of it is done automatically, so you might actually be lucky there. Next is the third-party resources. So if we take a look at these reports, there's not going to be anything that would be loading, say, from Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics. It's all done later on. So this way, it won't have any impact on the performance of the site because it's loaded after you have already made the site usable. And here, this is one where these third-party requests don't reside on the server that is in your control. So that's all the more reason to defer them and load them a little bit later, because you have less control over modifying or optimizing these. You can, for example, enable text compression or setting efficient cache policies for that. So you are a little bit limited. And we can maybe go over that later in another video. That's how it is. Gets a little bit technical. Now, let's take a look at the product pages. So here we have product pages. I'm gonna show the desktop versions to keep it simple. So here page, very typical, quite simple. In many cases, a lot of suggested products, but nothing out of the ordinary. And then on this example, very simple as well. A little bit of high quality imagery and a lot of related products. Pretty standard as well. And lastly, we have this third one, which you could also describe as very standard. So less variation here when it comes to these pages. And there's their performances. So again, you see the same structure performance being good. And then the performance itself can vary quite a bit. So this is what the optimizer has in control. The performance, not so much. So usually you be judging their work from the structure more than the performance. This is something I'll show that these principles hold true. So same methodology, different page. You still see fast page speeds, download times, low page sizes, low request numbers. Same here, and you'll see the same here. So very consistent there. Again, if you were to look at this from the actual developer tools perspective, you would find that there will be a lot of requests as we further load the page. So just as I'm using the page, more and more requests are coming through. So it's going to download these GIFs and then do these little calls and so on. So you can see how this is built actually. that way. When you really do it, I did a hard refresh here just to see what items are not yet cached in my computer. You'll see 277 requests. So again, the same principle. That's okay. Quite heavy pages at the end of the day. They're just optimized to be lighter for the end user. So the impression is positive. So to sum it up, the website is built differently. There are between the pages. There's differences in target audiences, different performance goals, and there's not that many simple benchmarks to judge all websites. But here's the ones that I believe are relevant for Shopify stores, and they are considered use-specific requirements and what is generally important for you in terms of performance or design, and you'll be able to find the balance for yourself. And I would add lastly that most websites usually require some obvious optimization, and there's very much an 80-20 here, where doing the basics will get you pretty decent scores, and not only decent scores, but decent usability. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of e-commerce optimization content, and I'll see you on the next ones. If you are interested, you can go to CROgurus.com, where you can read more about our agency and how we help 7-figure and 8-figure e-commerce stores get the most out of their existing traffic. And if you're in that range, feel free to contact us for working together. Thank you.